Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is normal. What is it? And does it even really exist? So I'm excited to talk about this because it's been something that I have been looking at most of my life in one way or another. So before we get started with that, let's just dive in and get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it, and imagine clear, crisp oxygen flowing into your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing your cells and your organs. And as you exhale, exhale any tension anywhere in your body, inside, outside, just let it go. And let's take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it, and this time imagine sparkling white light coursing through every molecule of your being and enlivening all those wonderful little elements and particles and just giving you so much energy. And exhale and relax and release any tension, any stress. And now let's just gently press our palms together and ever so softly, gently rub your fingers against your palms. Feel the tickling and the tingling in your fingers and in your palms, and just enjoy the deliciousness of that and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Good morning, Dido, and good morning to everyone who's here. I'm so glad to be with you today. And we're going to be talking about normal. What is normal? The thing that prompted this conversation for me was a conversation with a client who's been going through a lot of challenges. Actually, not just a client, several people who are just experiencing tremendous challenges in life and wondering if they will ever be able to live a normal life. And I put that in quotes because I think that we project the notion of normal, and I want to just sort of deconstruct that a little bit to see what is this concept that we have about normal and or normalcy, and also looking at right now in our history, we're experiencing a new normal. You hear people saying new normal. And when are things going to return to normal? Or I can't wait till things return to normal. And I think that this concept of normal is really a figment of our imaginations. Certainly, politically, we are experiencing very great divergences from prior experiences politically. And so that isn't normal. Where do we get this idea of normal? And so I'd love it if you chime in, because I think this is probably a hot topic for a lot of us. I remember as I think a teenager, at some point, my brother just yelling at me and saying, "Why can't you just be normal?" and and what I saw at that time as normal was not something that I aspired to. And I think that that's probably um, still the case in my perception. So let's just talk about what normal might be. What are norms? Maybe some of the norms that we have are suffering. Like being at a job that we hate, doing things in our life that we don't want to do. It's normal. Why? Because that's what most people do, or that's what we imagine most people do. But on the other side, a lot of us have sort of an Ozzie and Harriet. Now I'm really dating myself, right? but an Ozzie and Harriet idea or a Donna Reed idea of what normalcy is, where there's the happy life with 2.5 kids and a white picket fence and a dog and uh, that that was a picture of normalcy that we were exposed to through television. At least when I was growing up, those were the kinds of norms that were presented as I was growing up. And when life didn't match that, when my life didn't match that, when I wasn't happy all the time, when I was confronting experiences in my family that were nothing like what I saw on TV, what I got to see is that our life, my experience wasn't normal. And that was because and that's in quotes, by the way, that's because I wasn't meeting this expectation that I had integrated as the bar for what normalcy was. And I think that this is a very, very interesting time that we're experiencing because we're seeing so many transitions, and we recognize that normalcy is not just black and white. And when we talk about the norms are actually changing. Like if we're gauging normalcy on the actual fact of what is true in terms of the general population, uh, we're facing unprecedented levels of disease, unprecedented and growing levels of autism, for example, and Alzheimer's and cancer. And that has become the norm, where it's normal. It's I don't know that it's really normal, but it's a common experience that we have people in our lives that are struggling with cancer. I mean, that is a very, very common experience. And so, do we call that normal? Because it is the prominent experience. If we are experiencing, so I think really what I'm getting at here is that we have all kinds of metrics that are largely subjective about determining what is normal. And typically, we have an idealized notion of what normalcy is. And even right now, we get to be looking at the gender spectrum and recognize that it's not black and white. It's not normal to be I mean, it's we have this idea of what's normal, but it may not be really reflective of the prevailing norm in our culture, where gender is uh, strictly male and female, right? It's not. It's no longer an uncontested issue or uncontested designation. And I hope you'll forgive me if I'm not being politically correct in how I'm speaking this. It's new territory, new language, and but what I recognize is that we are challenging so many of the quote unquote norms that we have been acclimated to. And on a personal level, when people are experiencing deep upset or challenge with emotional, mental, spiritual, physical health, we often want things to go back to normal or wish that we could be normal or feel normal. but this idea of being and feeling normal is maybe a construct. Maybe it's something that we have idealized. You know, with people that I've encountered experiencing anxiety and depression, they say, I just want to live a normal life. Well, what does that look like? What is that really? And where is the concept? Like, let's tease it apart to look at it a little bit more closely. What does it look like? What is a normal life? You know, some people believe that a normal life is being happy all the time. I don't know anybody that's happy all the time. I don't, do you? Are you? Because if you are, I want to know you. You know, I want to understand how, you know, what that looks like, how that feels. I know some people that are happy more often than not, perhaps, but I wonder, and I really would love your input in this conversation around normal and this new normal that we're experiencing, where it's normal or it's normalized to be wearing masks, for instance, and keeping social distance, right? That's the new normalized behavior. And I think that when we talk about normalized behavior or experience, we're talking about becoming acclimated to circumstances. We become acclimated to our political environment. We become acclimated to the challenges that we encounter, the fact that we've acclimated in so many ways to this COVID crisis, that we acclimate to seeing violence on on media and on TV, that we have acclimated to um, pollution. We have acclimated to so many things. It makes me think of the story about the frog in the boiling water, which is a horrible vision to begin with, but the idea is that this frog in water that's temperate, when the temperature is raised little by little by little, the frog doesn't notice and essentially gets boiled alive and without jumping out of the pot. And I apologize for that gruesome an analogy here, but I think that when we talk about becoming acclimated, we are the frog in the water, and we are acclimating to things that are not normal, or should not be the norm. They may be the norm, but they should not be the norm. That we become inured to these things, we become impervious to them and unresponsive to them. We become numb to them. And I think we really, that through COVID, have had, in many fronts, a wake up call to see some of the patterns of behavior that we've had in our lives in terms of chasing things that uh, were not filled with the meaning that we actually crave and yearn for. And we're looking, hopefully reevaluating our values and reprioritizing and recognizing choices that we didn't previously recognize. This story of normalcy is actually a call for us to become awakened and to step out of that rushing tide of I'm searching for the words, of popular opinion or of maybe just being walking through life in a daze and a haze where we don't look at what's going on and we just ignore things and get on with things to try and create a semblance of normalcy, of predictability, of safety, which is actually in that context, that safety is an illusion because it's bred from closing ourselves off from what's there and what's real. I'm wondering, what do you think? What do you think about this whole idea of normal and what we accept as normal, or what we imagine and idealize as normal? And how do we wake from this dream to be truly responsive in life, to be generative, to be creative? I think that it means in so many ways breaking out of the norm. I think it means challenging. I think it means questioning. And so one of the things that I see in so many ways is that it has been not normal to question our news sources, to question our beliefs, to question our assumptions, to bring ourselves into a greater sense of presence. So please give me some feedback here. Let's talk about this rather than just having me go on and on in my own musings here about normal. I think that we're not living in normal times in any way, shape, or form. We're living in unprecedented times. And the state of the planet, the acceleration of of the degradation of our environment, of our economy, of our health, it's not, none of it should be normalized. And it is not where we want our lives to be. And these extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. Dido, thank you so much for responding. Dido says, as I understand it, habitual thinking and behavior saves energy and time. So we have a lot of shorthand ways of being and thinking. But our calling right now seems to become more aware by stepping back and taking a look at what we do. 100%, Dido. As always, your insights and your summaries and contribution is brilliant. So it's true that we dismiss so much information in order to be able to function. We're bombarded by a barrage of information and data and sensory input, and it's not possible to function with full awareness of all of it all the time, and even all of it any of the time. And so, as you said, Dido, we have a shorthand ways of being and thinking, and we allow assumptions, and we allow those assumptions to become our truth. And without becoming more aware, without really looking at what's happening, we don't get to respond to what the needs truly are. And so we get to be awake, we get to ask questions, we get to look at the TV commercials that are telling us about toilet paper and laundry detergent, and taking our precious time in and our minds to tell us about different deodorants and personal care products and cars and all kinds of things that through our observation of those things, they are elevated in importance for us because they're focusing our attention, they're directing our attention in a particular way and away from other things. And when we're consuming media, it's beholden to us to realize that this constant barrage of advertising programming, that's not normal. I mean, it's the norm, but that's not normal for us to be spending a whole lot of time and energy in our precious lives when there are so many important things, or certainly subjectively more important things to be putting our attention to. Um, it's crazy. It's actually really crazy. I mean, I think we get to look at how we have normalized crazy. Like when the house is burning, do we really need to be putting our attention on how thick our eyelashes are, or how fit, how thin we are or fat we are, or whether, it goes on and on and on. And I just encourage all of us to remember, and to remember to be awake, to remember to question, to say, what is this? What is this that's going on? And what choices can I make that are more awake and aware? What choices can I make that can make a difference? How can I be present to the things that matter? How do I choose? How do I choose what truly matters? And it's funny because when I choose these topics, or when they are given to me, I'm not sure which way it is. When I choose these topics, I never know where the conversation is going to go. And I certainly didn't anticipate this conversation about what we have normalized. But I think we get to look at it and to make choices in the face of it, and create a new normal for ourselves. Because the normal that's driven by the populace, by the collective, by the mass of people, that norm, or so many things about that norm, are so completely dysfunctional that we get to be discerning. We get to make conscious and deliberate choices, and question, is it really important to have the latest in fashion? Is it really important to have the newest and greatest technology when it comes out? Do we have to have the new iPhone? Do we have to keep upgrading and upgrading and upgrading? What's the cost of that? Environmentally, what's the cost of that? Like, how are we spiritually hijacking ourselves by identifying with these external things that we associate our worth with? So let's look at what we want to create for our own normal. And that doesn't mean that you have to assume the values that are being projected through advertising, for example. Question, just take a day. If you're a TV watcher or in media, during that day, be alert to all the advertising that you're subject to, whether it's on Facebook, or whether it's through your email, whether it is on TV, whether it's through YouTube, wherever we look, there's advertising everywhere. And take a look at the things that are being advertised and notice what, just have a think about it. Take a minute to question it, and to question, whoa, here they're showing me all these things, and I want this, and I could care less about that, and I didn't know I wanted whatever that was until it showed up. And now what's it creating? It's creating desire, and desire, it with that desire, it's creating the desire to spend money, and that spending of money is going to require that I make more money, and then it's a cycle. It's a cycle. Dido says, I was fortunate enough to be trained as an anthropologist and archaeologist. So I'm steeped in knowing about different cultures in different places and times. It's amazing to see how what normal is in different cultures. It varies wildly. I can only imagine, Dido. I can only imagine. I mean, there are cultures that what comes to mind is female genital mutilation being a cultural norm. And, you know, just so many things, reverence and prayer to nature being a cultural norm in different societies. It runs the gamut, ownership of family in a certain way. It's remarkable to even, I don't think we get to stand back too often and really observe the norms of our own culture. And Dido, you have a unique lens through which to see the insanity that we are acclimated to in our culture here. And this, of all times in human history, is a time where it's so important to be questioning our norms, truly, because we get to create a new world now. And that's our calling, is to create a world that works. And there's so much brokenness that we are seeing now that wasn't as visible. And that's a blessing in itself, to be recognizing what needs to shift and what needs to transform. And so we get to explore that together, and really question our own simple routines, the things that we do on a regular basis. And in the face of questioning those things, we open up new possibility where there may not have been any before. So on that note, Dido, I want to say thank you so much for your always wise and considered contributions. And I thank everybody who's listening, and I'm so grateful for your attention in listening to my ramblings. But I really, really invite you to look at what your normal is and question it, and be actively creative in it, rather than just sort of falling into a norm that may not be expressive of the truth of who you are. So on that note, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I'm here every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And we go live on the Facebook page for Enlightened World Network every weekday morning. Thank you, Dido, and thank you to everyone. Please check out the other wonderful programming on Enlightened World Network, a wonderful community of spiritually and heart-centered folks. And on that note, I hope to see you again soon, like maybe even tomorrow.